buttery crab and corn risotto. This is a real standout dish. I actually had this at a restaurant recently and I'm going to try to replicate it because it was so good. And what made it so good is the sheer amount of butter in it. So I'm going to be using butter twice. First in the risotto, but also I'm going to garnish it with a zesty lime brown butter. It is so good. So you'll need some good quality Australian certified organic butter. I'm actually using the salted butter here because I love the flavour of it, and also it goes really nicely with the zingy flavour of our lime that I'll use later on. So you need a whole block, and the whole block goes into a small pot over here. We'll turn the heat on, medium heat, not too hot. So we're going to start with the base of the risotto, and I like to use quite a large, heavy based pan just like this one. The reason I like a pan is because we get a lovely even heat in it, and it's much easier to toss and agitate the pan to cook the rice grains. So we'll start with some olive oil, small drizzle, and we'll need some onions. We'll add them. We'll just spread them out, coat them in the oil, and just let them sweat off. We don't want to get too much colour on the onions. We just want to soften them, so not too much colour at all. To that, I'll add 2 cloves of garlic. So I'll bruise the garlic, and just with a sharp knife, I'm going to run through the garlic a few times just so it's finely chopped. Some risotto dishes like this will call for some celery, but for this, I really want to keep it very basic at the beginning, just garlic, just onion, so we can taste the true flavour of the corn, the lime, and the crab at the end, which is a really special touch. Okay, I like the look of that. Now the garlic can go in. I tend to give the onion a bit of a head start when cooking a risotto like this, just so they cook evenly and that garlic doesn't burn. So that's softening up. Classic risotto needs some stock. I'm going to be using a very mild chicken stock here. I don't want it to be overpowering. And I've cooked the frozen corn in the stock for about 15 to 20 minutes until it's really soft. So I'm going to reserve half of this corn and we'll use it for the end. And I like the two textures of it. So half will be in its kernel form, and the other half I'm going to blend into a puree with a little bit of this stock. So we'll just add a few spoonfuls of the stock to the jug. And this just gives us not only two textures, but we get a concentrated corn flavour into the risotto too. So stick blender is best for this because we want it to be quite fine. So we'll give that a blend. And that is ready to go. Look at that gorgeous pastel yellow colour, fantastic. Okay, corn component ready to go. Let's pop that to the side. And now for the rice. So some arborio rice, some risotto rice. You'll need 1 cup of rice for this, so measure it out. Whenever you're cooking risotto, you do not need to rinse your rice. In fact, that's sacrilege. You don't want to do that because we want the starchiness of that rice to form a creamy texture. So no washing of the rice, and that goes into our pan with our softened onions and garlic. And you want to coat all of those little grains in the onion and garlic. Now you just want to toast that off for a moment. And now we can add some white wine. Into the white wine. And you'll see the liquid evaporate quite quickly. And now we can start feeding the risotto the liquid. So little by little, we're going to add this chicken stock. So I like to use a ladle for this. This stock is hot, so we'll add 1 to 2 ladlefuls at the beginning. 1, 2. We'll also turn the heat down just to a medium to low heat, because we want it to gently start to absorb that liquid. Once that first lot of liquid has been absorbed, then little by little I'm going to add the rest of it until we get gorgeous al dente rice. So at this stage it should take about 15 to 20 minutes. Now back to our lovely butter. Now you can see that the butter is really foaming up. It was making quite a lot of noise, bubbling, crackling a little bit, but now it's stopped, and this is the key sign that the butter is transforming. Those milk solids are going from that white colour to that golden colour, and that's what you want. That's what we call brown butter. So keep giving that a bit of a swirl so it evenly colours, And now we can hit it with loads and loads of lime zest. This is what makes it extra special. So lots of zest in there. I'm using the zest of 2 limes. We don't need the juice. I'll use the juice later on for the risotto. And then that is good to go. Now I've made a big batch of this brown butter. We don't need all of it for this particular recipe, but it does hold really well in the fridge. Just pop it into an airtight container and reserve it next time you want to make a risotto. It's also fantastic in other types of dishes like chili con carnes. The list is endless. All right, let's pop that to the side and I'll continue to feed this risotto with more liquid until it's al dente. All right, this risotto is looking good, and this is why you use a pan, so you can just flip it up and down, and by doing this, we're bringing out the starches in the rice so it becomes really creamy. Now I want to add some more butter to the rice, but instead of using the brown butter for this, I'm just going to use some cold butter. It should be cold butter for this, just so it gently melts in, hence giving us a really creamy texture. So a little knob of butter, in that goes. It's also going to make it really glossy, along with some parmesan cheese. Now I have just turned off the heat just so this slowly melts into the rice. Freshly grated is best for this one too. This looks good. Along with our pureed corn, we'll pour that in. And I'm not adding any salt to this because my stock was salty enough. We've also got the salted butter in there and the parmesan cheese. So it's all about balancing it. And now I'm just going to give that a really nice stir, just so all of those flavours marry up. Oh, it's going to be a delicious risotto. Give it a little toss. Okay. Don't forget the rest of that corn, so I'm going to add a good handful of it and just reserve a little bit for the garnish. We'll mix that in. And now it's time to add the crab. Now I'm using some spanner crab. This is a real treat to add crab to a recipe like this. If you don't have crab or didn't want to use crab, you could absolutely use a little bit of fish like snapper, just lightly poach it and then add it to the dish, or leave it out completely and just serve it as a corn risotto, also fantastic in its own right. Okay, let's plate this up. So I'll grab a big spoon. And I always like to add my risotto to a plate. This is quite traditional. You don't want a big mound of rice. You want it to sort of cool down evenly. So after you've placed that in the centre, just use the palm of your hand just to spread it out like so. Okay, to finish this off, a little more of that corn over the top, sprinkle it over, and the crab. I've got the claw here, so I'm just going to add that to the centre and then break up the rest. This is cooked crab. Just the sweetness of it goes so well with the sweetness of the corn. Oh, fantastic flavours. And that pièce de résistance, that brown butter, nutty brown butter with the zest of that lime. I'm going to drizzle that over the top. See how it's golden in colour? That's what we're after. And maybe one more for good luck, because I do love my butter. Finally, just for the freshness of some lime juice, that goes over the top. And that right there is a restaurant quality risotto. If you want to impress someone, make them this risotto, and don't forget the key ingredient, which is that zesty brown butter. It really heightens the whole dish.